Hi, welcome. In this video, I want to talk about a intentional interaction-based method versus, again, what's popular in the dog training world by way of motivating dogs to respond at the very beginning of a relationship problem. Understand that when I talk about why that sets up or sets in motion a counterfeit picture of change for so many dogs and owners, it's based on a failure to understand both the role of the owner as well as the role of influence by way of a process. And again, this is where, again, I draw into the parenting example. If you really consider the parenting example, the 4 styles of parenting, and start to look at, what's popular, and then consider dogs as social animals. Understand, this is the part of, again, understanding the social influence part of this in terms of how a dog's decision-making process is governed and influenced at that level. You'll start to see the problems as well as the solution by way of our role in the relationship itself. So again, talking about, I talk about interaction-based, it is following a path of turning a process into a type of power play, okay? So but again, drawing it back into the parent example, it's no different than the type of power play between a parent who's switching parenting styles, going from permissive to authoritative, and a type of kind of not liking, okay, the child's going to experience, okay, based again on, the parent, interacting with, okay, the child differently, getting in their airspace differently, because that's the point, is experiencing a relationship problem. Understand that, what kind of keys you up on the fact that, you need to kind of change is, in terms of the clues that you have a problem, is behavioral issues, okay? And understand, this is where, again, I start to connect dots as well in terms of, our role in the relationship, and even in terms of, what actually creates change by way of what a process really represents. Again, going over to the parent example is no different, connecting, dots properly. And those type of dots go from, okay, as a child becomes more and more selfish, behavioral issues escalate, okay? They continue to get more severe as a child becomes more and more selfish, more and more self-focused. And again, in terms of dogs as social animals, okay, you'll see the same type of parallel, same type of connection, as, behavioral issues escalate. But here's the thing that really I would encourage people to think about, okay, how it is that we can, things can seem very disconnected. This is where the statement comes from as well, in terms of when, dog owners will say, well, Dale, my dog is pretty good, except, okay? And really think about that statement, okay? How it is, again, carrying this back over to the parent example, how it is a child can seem pretty good, okay, most of the time, except when, okay, you bring the child under parental influence by way of a demand. Okay, an example to go to help to kind of understand this is, with what's revealed, okay, how the relationship is revealed, the truth of it, through, again, the demand of, take the garbage out because you're the parent, versus take the garbage out and here's $100. Okay, think about the setup, think about responses, and think about how deceptive responses can be if we're just, motivating responses in a very superficial way without considering the relationship side of things, our role in that, the truth as to our role, but also behavioral problems, where are they actually coming from, looking at the core of the relationship, but our role in that. So it's no different. This is where, again, we carry this over to dogs as social animals, how it is, and you already think about this, your dog can look well behaved most of the time as they're, floating around the house. You're petting all over your dog. And then you have these moments where you're like, this seems like disconnected somehow. The dog is like, looks so well behaved, but then, just, having these aggressive moments happening or certain really bad moments. You're trying to piece it together. But think about the same scenario with a child can look well behaved most of the time until, they're again brought under a demand. But think about, when a dog is on the leash a certain way, when you're starting to bring a dog under a level of control, this is where, right away, think about the things that start to go sideways. The walk isn't going so well anymore. Your dog won't walk well on the leash. They're pulling out in front. They get very reactive. Now the stress starts to come on to the dog. This is where that whole thing with, you talk about fear aggression, which seems like a contradiction. But think about, going back to the parenting example, the child not finding comfort through the right parenting style. Stress is coming on the child as well. They're not meant to be, in that role that way. And so, but again, it's like dogs and social animals, like they're caught in between two worlds. And so they're not being, in terms of having their social needs met through, again, you taking a lead role. But beyond just the idea of leadership, again, this is very important to understand. We talk about, because lots of trainers and people promote leadership, but what really sets it apart, what defines change, comes through the method itself. A intentional interaction-based method. Understand, that makes all the difference in the world. So beyond an idea of leadership, the method itself's got to line up. Okay, understand that that's what's going to create change. Because you can have an idea of leadership, but if you're still aligned with this very popular idea that trains a learning-based exercise, okay, by way of what's called the 4 quadrants, and you're motivating dogs the way I described, that door is completely wide open for dogs to continue to hold control in the relationship. Okay, and the deceptive nature of responses are such that it leads you into believing certain things that aren't true about the relationship, based merely on a dog moving around, going into a sit, a down. That can look great. Doesn't mean whatsoever that the relationship's getting better if the dog is being motivated to respond that way, and if the roles aren't aligned properly and influence isn't part of the equation the way that I describe it. So again, we talk about an intentional interaction-based approach. Understand it's a type of language, okay, that a dog comes into agreement with. So this whole idea of a power play, understand the issue about, coming into agreement with and keeping the level of conflict, down, okay? Because understand this isn't about, when I talk about power play, it isn't about being over the top with the dog or investing in certain moments, such as you see people try to do like an alpha role in the dog. You don't want to think that way. You don't want to interact that way, because that oftentimes represents more of being frustrated, okay, than being aligned, fully invested in the right parenting style, so that the interactions that you're having are consistent in such a way the dog makes sense of them. Okay, saying, okay, this makes sense. So it's the same type of thing. So this methodology I talk about through this system is very specific. Understand, it's truly, I say, one of a kind. Okay, it speaks the right language. It's intentional. Okay, it's not erratic. Okay, if you look at how people interact, again, understand that when you see, and I encourage you to watch my videos on my YouTube channel, you'll see, especially the board and training videos, I go through all of it. Like I talk through it all. You see me interacting with dogs, but it's very specific in a way that's, again, dog comes into agreement with. Okay, so it is a power play, but at the same time, it's meant to keep it safe. It's meant to make sense to the dog. It's meant to meet the criteria for change. Okay, understand that's absolutely critical, because here's the thing, is again, and this is how popular this idea is. You see all these trainers doing it. These two groups, balance and force free. Dogs are responding, moving around for treats and for, motivated by other motivators. The relationship itself can be a motivator, okay, in terms of what you've already signed off on. So the depth of the problem is extreme, okay? Understand, if you don't understand what's going on beyond just appearances, it can be very difficult to kind of sort this stuff out. But understand that, through being able to step back from it and ask questions such as, okay, why is it that so many dog owners continue to struggle in the relationship with their dogs, even after investing time and money into this idea? Why is it this picture doesn't line up for so many? Okay, those are the questions that you need to ask, because understand that when it comes to you and your dog, this is critical information. If you really care about your dog, you don't want to come through the other side of a process in worse shape, okay? Like you're back up against the wall saying, this is now a hopeless situation. I've gone through balance, I've gone through force free, I'm in no better shape. So understand that in terms of, this system of training, what it represents just like a brand new day, okay? Because the system of training is totally different in a good way, okay? Because it truly does answer the questions as to what is your role in the relationship, what is a process, what is influence, how's that defined through a intentional interaction-based approach, following the right path. So again, if you have any questions about your dog, about training, about this system, feel free to contact me. I'd be more than happy to help you out. Thanks for watching.